The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Martine Wishmayer from General Bytes,
Howdy ho, folks.
Ben Ark from LN Bits, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Hola, amigos.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Fidelity will start offering Bitcoin as an investment offering in 401k accounts. Yes, Fidelity investments will allow you to invest potentially up to 20% of your retirement account in Bitcoin directly from their investment options without having to go to a separate exchange or brokerage. This is a major move for the company, which of course had called Bitcoin rat poison and other insults in the past. Now suddenly you can invest up to 20% of your retirement into Bitcoin directly with Fidelity. Martine, is this huge news for Bitcoin? Is it just going to turn the world upside down?
Well, it is if you're in the US, because from what I understood, we don't have a 401k in Europe. It's typically a US thing, and we can't. We have no saying in where our pension funds invest our money. So they invested in palm tree, palm oil. They invested in cluster bombs. They invested in all this stuff, which I would never, ever, ever even poke with a stick. So I think it's pretty cool that you can decide where your money goes. It also works two ways. So if you screw up, then you are the one that took the wrong decision. But being able to put some of that money, which is you have to keep in the pension fund, to be able to steer that into crypto, or in this case just Bitcoin, because the rest will probably not be around for long enough to actually last until your retirement. I think it's fantastic. I think many people will use this in the US, and for them, they're already paying into this pension fund anyway. So why not steer that a little bit into crypto? And up to 20% is quite high. I would have expected it to be up to 5% or something. So yeah, go all in 20%, that is, and we'll see. Nobody that bought Bitcoin has ever lost over a period of 4 or 5 years or longer. So I think if it's for your pension, yeah, why not? Do it. Say, do it now. This is financial advice.
Ben Ark, they're allowing all of their clients, not just the extremely wealthy, this incredible Bitcoin option.
I mean, we as people who, oh, I think my microphone's falling over. Sorry, where's my mic on? That's the mic. I think good start. No, I think we as Bitcoiners, we have a lot of faith in the technology, but even in saying that, oh, I'm so lame. There we go. Even in saying that, it's the hat. The hat's throwing me because I never wear hats, so I don't know what to do when I'm wearing a hat. I was just throwing my game. Even in saying that, I'm not sure putting 20% in your pension as Bitcoin, unless you understand the technology, is particularly a good idea. We obviously do, and we have a lot of faith in it. But I always say to people, if they're going to put the money into it, then it could all go to zero. And if you're relying on that for your future pension in however many years, like 20, 30, 40, 50 years, then yes, personally, I would make the bet and think, yeah, that's a fair bet, 20%. But I would prefer if the cap were a little bit lower, like 10%, maybe 5%. Because I mean, if you've got a portfolio of assets, really your percentage in a volatile asset or risky asset, which Bitcoin still is, would be lower. So yeah, I can see why there are some concerns around it. But as Martin said, in the US, you have like a much more, they have a greater tradition of people actually taking more control over their pension schemes, whereas we don't in the UK and in Europe. So maybe, within the US, people are more informed when it comes to where they're going to invest their money. So yeah, good luck to people. But as always, as much as we don't like to say it so much anymore, we used to say it a lot more, maybe like 5 years ago, we'd always say, oh, it could all go to zero, it could all go to zero. And we don't seem to say that anymore. And I think it's important that we do, because although it's proven itself to be a very strong technology, and I personally think that it won't go to zero, there is always that small possibility that it might, and people need to be prepared for that.
Of course, today, Amazon stock, a very risky asset, is down 12.5%. Amazing, unheard of. Perhaps the third time that the S&P 500 has had a stock drop as much as 10% in a single day. Almost Bitcoin-esque volatility. Dan, Eve, they say, not your keys, not your coins. No one on Fidelity will hold their own keys. Is this the end of Bitcoin as we know it?
Well, that's the downside, isn't it? To investing in it's not necessarily Bitcoin you're buying. You're buying into something that's Bitcoin indexed, and with that comes either if they're going to hold the private keys, they could lose them or screw up, or they could be there could be an insider who wipes the accounts or whatever. But then you are defeating the principle of actually holding Bitcoin, right? And you've got that third party risk. In the UK, we can, like, I think it was Hargreaves Lansdown were actually the first company that allowed us to invest in Bitcoin for our pensions, and I had the form, and in literally in like January 2017 when Bitcoin was $600, and it was like I was this close. I filled it in and I never sent it off, and just got distracted, and which is very upsetting. I'm not sure if it's even possible now, because I think they flip flopped on it after the 2018 sort of come down. But some of the critique is about the fact that Bitcoin is volatile, and pensions. They're like, oh, you don't want Bitcoin to be, you don't want to be in something that's so volatile. And they said, in this specific article, it dropped like 10% in a day. But the whole point of Bitcoin is about changing your time preference, right? It's about long term, and pensions are usually long term. Like, they're the longest term investments that you generally have. So your time frame for that, for the maturing of your pension should make up for any of the lumps and bumps that you do get. Not to mention that I think I read today that a lot of California or there's a big chunk of California pensions for a certain sector that invested in Netflix, and they're down like hundreds of millions. So that's you've still got, with traditional stocks, you've got the same issue, right? You've got the same issue that a stock can go to zero. As well as Bitcoin, maybe people saying, oh, it could go to zero, unless there's something fundamentally wrong with the technology. I don't ever see it going to zero. It's tech, so it can be fixed. So I don't know. I think it's not, the going to zero thing is not a great argument compared to other stocks that have completely tanked, especially my crazy, like when I thought I was a stock trader days of just stuff that would just literally like I think Boohoo, they're doing insane now, but I bought Boohoo, and the day after they released their results and it tanked 50%. So it can happen in many different markets and stocks. So I think Bitcoin, especially in the long term, is a safe hold ultimately.
Exit question. Now that Fidelity will allow you to invest in Bitcoin directly from your retirement account, do we even need a Bitcoin spot ETF? Can't we just give that all up? Martine Wishmayer.
I don't know what the target audience for those ETFs is, but this is also for pension savings, right, Thomas? So,
It's
Fidelity.
About the same audience, I'd say. I'd say the people, but there's just one company in this case. So the ETF.
Yeah, more is better. I think more is better, but Fidelity is a giant so yeah, many people will just be happy with Fidelity, but I think more is better. Those ETFs and those 401k thingies, they're not for me, but they do make it possible for a larger audience to hold or purchase Bitcoin or get invested in Bitcoin. And I think that's definitely good for Bitcoin. It means it will be here to stay. As Ben said, it might all go down to zero, but I don't think that will happen, because by the time it's 1 cent, I will buy all 21 million of them.
That sounds like a good plan. Ben, Ark, what about Fidelity? Do we still need an ETF?
I mean, an ETF is, it would be great for institutional investors, wouldn't it? So big pension funds, which are making investments on behalf of their clients, they need to invest in accredited funds, so they can't hold the Bitcoin themselves. And I think obviously an ETF is still useful for those types of funds. And like I say, like here in Europe, whatever, we have big pension funds. I have like a teaching pension, for example. That pension fund would then be able to then go and invest in this big institutional ETF, and it would be kind of regulated, and hopefully the Bitcoin would be held in a secure way. And maybe there'll be some insurance as well. So if they lose all the Bitcoin, then the pension fund won't miss out completely. And that the real question is like how these funds are storing their keys, how these funds are storing their Bitcoin. Is it secure? The whole world of Bitcoin security is getting a hell of a lot better. People are more accustomed now to using things like multi-sig. And there's some great, institutional solutions now which have come out by some big companies who are insured. So yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And the ETF, the Bitcoin ETF, is still something we should all cross our fingers for, because I mean it'll just lock up a hell of a lot of Bitcoin, and that inevitably will raise the price of Bitcoin, and then the people who are holding it will then have more capital to reinvest into Bitcoin, and then you have that feedback loop which has made the Bitcoin ecosystem progress so incredibly quickly as this thus far. So yeah, we still want a Bitcoin ETF.
Dan, Eve, we already have HAL. Do we need ETF?
Yeah, the more Bitcoin locked up, the better. The more big institutions that recognize Bitcoin as a viable investment, the better. And the more what's the word? Yeah, the more it becomes a household thing, right? It's the people who invest in funds trying to they have a fund manager usually who is meant to be taking care of risk and not throwing people's money away. So if Bitcoin is considered good enough to be in portfolios of big funds, and include ETFs included, especially the spot held ETFs rather than futures, the more credence it gives to Bitcoin as a technology and as hardcore money, not just hard money, hardcore money.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all this stuff legitimizes Bitcoin more, doesn't it? Which is great. These big investment funds and ETFs exist, then it just legitimizes Bitcoin as a technology, which is good.
Absolutely. We used to be nowhere. Now we're everywhere, even out of focus. But I'll agree with what I said to Martine earlier, that we need the ETF because the ETF is more than one company. Fidelity is one company. So if you have your funds in Fidelity, you can buy 20% of Bitcoin today. Otherwise, you're SOL. So we want to serve the whole market. We want the spot ETF. We don't just want the futures ETF. We want the whole thing.
We don't just want Fidelity. We want infidelity too.
We want infinite fidelity. We want all the fidelities. But for now, we want everyone to push the thumbs up button as we move on to issue 2. Issue 2. Goldman Sachs offers the first Bitcoin-backed loan as Wall Street embraces crypto. Yes, it looks like it was just for one client, but Goldman allowed the person to put up Bitcoin as collateral for their loan so that they could take out dollars and buy something else. Bitcoin is everywhere. Ben, Ark, what do you think about the Bitcoin-backed loan coming not from some weird Bitcoin company that gave you a free hat, but instead from Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest names in finance?
Again, legitimizing Bitcoin, isn't it? And all these naysayers who were, talking down Bitcoin, they're now, it's just like free open source software. When that came about, the big proprietary companies would talk it down and they would say it's useless, doesn't work properly, and then eventually they end up having to adopt it and incorporate it into their business models. And then ultimately, that's what Bitcoin is doing now. It's legitimizing itself as being legitimized by being so stable and so good and working so well for so long. And now these big institutions are starting to use the technology and make use of it, which is great, because they're also dipping their hands just in that they're starting to realize the potential of the technology in a multitude of other ways as well. by having specialists who they employ, who then have to go and learn more about the technology, and they have to have special departments, which is the Bitcoin department in Goldman Sachs, and that's going to have to understand the technology a little bit more. And again, it's that feedback loop. So yeah, it's a good thing, and it's we just have to let all those things, all these negative things I said about Bitcoin in the past, and we can be the big man in the room. We can say, okay, cool, using it, great. Like, we don't have to rub it in their faces and say, I told you so. Well done, welcome aboard.
Have fun staying poor.
But we can rub it in their faces, and we do have time. As Ben was saying, we were right on open source. We're right on Bitcoin. The next thing you'll tell me is that we're right on The Big Lebowski being a classic movie, which it was not accepted at the time. Dan, Eve, what about Goldman Sachs and a Bitcoin-backed loan? Next time Martin wants to do a loan against his Bitcoin, no more shady companies. Goldman Sachs, you just walk right in the front door, right this way, Mr. Bitcoin.
Straight to the vault, please. I think it makes perfect sense, right? Like, one of the things that people used to use as an argument against Bitcoin whenever it came up in a discussion. When I say it came up in a discussion, when I wouldn't stop talking about it to people, as you do, is that they're like, oh, but Bitcoin's complete. I mean, obviously it's changed now, but back in 2013 to it was it definitely wasn't when I first started talking about it anyway. So it was really it's quite, people saw it as illiquid, like you can never take you can never do anything or sell it when you need to, blah blah blah. There's all those arguments, even though that wasn't true. But my argument was, well, if a house, for example, can be used as collateral, then it takes months to sell a house, especially in the UK. It's a right pain in the backside. So with the evolution in all the technologies around buying and selling Bitcoin, or the plethora of exchanges there are, Bitcoin is way more liquid than most assets. It's probably quicker to sell Bitcoin to sign up to an account and sell Bitcoin than it is to sell a stock that you own or something like that, right? It's it's so quick to sign up to an exchange and start buying and selling. So I think that argument for it not being good as a tool for collateral, I think is done away with now, and it's good to see there's a transition here, or not transition, but the bridging of crypto into the real world. Where we've seen it with DeFi and with Ethereum, that you can use your Ethereum and your link and whatever as collateral, and you can get Ethereum or other stable coins for it. But that's only from a DeFi perspective. But seeing that from Bitcoin into real money facility, I say sorry, real money. Whoa. Old real money. That's something that's pretty special. That's people have got Bitcoin that they don't want to sell, especially when there's a kind of a bit of a bear market going on. They'd rather be like well over collateralized with Bitcoin, be able to use some of their Bitcoin to get fiat to pay for real world stuff. And then when the next bull run happens, then happy days, they can pay it off easily. So yeah, I think it's good. It's a good thing that bridging the Bitcoin bros to traditional finance hoes.
Next, you'll be saying I can get an NFT back loan and people can buy cars with curio cards. Yeah, right.
There are multiple companies doing NFT back loans. Actually,
that's not real. That can't be real.
They genuinely are. But only with big ones like Bored Apes and Crypto Punks. But they do
curio cards.
They should add curio cards.
Yeah,
we should do a petition.
Martin, there's no more weird companies. You don't have to get your loan from someone weird. Goldman Sachs is here. All the big boys are here to fix it. Bitcoin is solved.
I didn't see at what rate this loan was given, and that was I was scanning for. I wanted to know what rates, because when I purchased the last apartments with crypto, a crypto Bitcoin backed loan. What I really liked about it is that within 24 hours, the money was in my bank account and I could immediately pay the lawyer, which is really cool, because normally if the house you're purchasing is the collateral, you have to get a valuation, you have to get all these income details, you got to really file a pile of documentation, at least 1 centimeter thick, print out duplicates for your lawyer, everything. And now it's 24 hours. And in a market where apartments are selling fast, it's important to be able to just close the deal, say, yes, I would like to have the apartment. And then the agent says, but you're not the only one that wants this apartment. So I'm the only cash buyer. The rest is just dreaming. I can have the money in 24 hours. And that's really beneficial. So yeah, I think there's a bright future for crypto or Bitcoin-backed loans. I know somebody else that used a whole bunch of shit coins to pay for, get a loan. And of course, the market changed and the value of the shit coins plummeted and he got wrecked totally. I said, but at least you got rid of all the shit coins and you still have the apartment. So, you should be happy for you. But that's why it's important. Just use Bitcoin. It's more stable in general than all the other coins. And you don't want your home loan to turn into a roller coaster. But yes, great. But before I would step into Goldman Sachs, I would demand a cap because I'm the only one without a cap here at the moment. So yes, don't care how shady the company is giving me the loan, as long as I get a cap and maybe a cup of coffee would be nice. The reasonable rate, I don't know what Goldman Sachs charged, but it looks expensive. So, probably not as expensive as the 13% they charged me on the home loan, which was like 13 times as much as a normal mortgage at that time. But, for me, it worked. I think the future is crypto and Bitcoin-backed loans. Did I even answer your question, Thomas?
It does seem like Goldman had a specialized service this time. They're not offering it as a broad service, likely why they didn't release the rate. This was probably a special contract for one person. But we'll see. We are getting there. And if Goldman did give you a hat, I think they'd give you a white hat. So you still wouldn't fit in this group of black hats. All right. I don't have an exit question for this one. Moving on. Still a chance to push thumbs up. If you didn't push it last time, you're like, I thought about it, but it's really difficult. I have to exit full screen. You have to push.
Can I have an exit question?
Sure, Ben. What's the exit question? Goldman Sachs is a really nice company because they sponsor my Apple Card.
Okay. I just wanted to say that
not a nice company. I'm being sarcastic, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah. With all these Bitcoin-backed loans and loans being done on Bitcoin, I think with the Lightning Network, liquidity pools are going to be a huge thing. So they're all hot wallets, and you've got this money sloshing about. There's no reason why you can't stake some of that stuff into a pool of money, and then that pool of money is then used to loan out to people, and then the people who are then actually providing the liquidity get some yield. So using Bitcoin for traditional finance is pretty interesting, but then when you talk about sort of future finance and actual users being the people who are getting just regular normal users, like not me on my Lightning wallet, I could be getting yield from loaning out some of my Bitcoin, which is just within my wallet. I think that's the kind of cool thing which I'm actually interested in. So hopefully maybe some of these companies will do some R&D into that, and if they don't, then we'll build it and then make them obsolete.
Dan Eve, Goldman back Bitcoin loans. Is this good for Bitcoin because you can loan out your Bitcoin but still kind of hold your Bitcoin, or bad for Bitcoin because you don't hold your private keys and you'd lose access? Is it better for people to be loaning them out and kind of owning them, or to just sell them for money?
Well, I think it's loaning it's better than selling it. Like if you need the money, then there's if by using it as loan collateral, at least you have a hope of getting it back, right? Whereas if you sell it, it's gone, and you've got to buy it back, and then you have the internal turmoil of like, oh, but I sold it, 40,000, then I had to buy back at 70,000 because it's going there. Oh yeah, sometime, but not this year. I'm not predicting it. Maybe this year, I don't know. But at least you've got a chance of getting it back. Whereas selling it, right? And that selling it's very hard. It's like it's one of the hardest thing ever is selling Bitcoins, and it's gut wrenching. So at least if it's as a loan collateral, you've got a chance of getting it back. Obviously, you've got to watch out for being margin called, and like you don't want it liquidated. But as long as you keep on top of it, then at least you get to keep your Bitcoin to a certain extent, as long as it doesn't get liquidated.
So Martine Goldman is just flattering my ego. They're now saying that Bitcoins are a thing of value and we will hold on to those, sir, and you'll wait for your loan to come due. Is this good thing for Bitcoin? People being loaning out their Bitcoin, Goldman valuing.
You and then got a point there, because I couldn't read that in the article. What happens with the Bitcoin I use as collateral? Are they being loaned out via the back door? Because that would create a collateral risk, meaning that you pay all your interest in time and you stick to the rules and agreements of your Bitcoin-backed loan. But at the same time, the person they loaned it out might not be able to pay it back. And who bears this collateral risk? Is it insured, yes or no? Because with most parties online right now, if you loan out the Bitcoins, they charge you, if you take out a loan with your Bitcoin as collateral, they will charge you pretty hefty interest rate. But at the same time, they make money by loaning it out again. And if you look at the small print, it specifically says that they can do that. There's just one exception to the rule. And this is something for our US viewers. Unchained Capital, whom I spoke to at the Bitcoin 2022 conference, they have this slogan, friends, don't let friends sell their Bitcoin. And what they do is they provide you with a loan, Bitcoin backed, but at the same time, they will give you the address of the multi-sig wallet that holds the collateral. So at any point in time, you can go have a look at the Bitcoins you can't really touch unless something happens to Unchained Capital. But you can see your coins held in your collateral. Basically, you can look it up on the blockchain and you can verify that it's still there. They are not doing any tricks on you in the background. And I think this should be the standard for any Bitcoin collateralized loan. There's a whole circus where they loan it out via the back door. Sorry to name them, but it's both Celsius, Nexo, U-Hodler, all of them, they all do this. And this is, in my opinion, is really bad, because similar situation caused the 2008 financial crisis, because, it is just not good. It should be, the collateral should be held in a multi-sig wallet that the person who put the collateral there, the person taking out the loan, should be able to, at any time, verify that his collateral is still there and it's safe.
You still got even if they swear, Cub Scout honor, I won't rehypothecate your Bitcoin, you still got the third party risk that, even though it's in a multi-sig, that it could go, something could happen, right? There could be an internal sort of thing, which is a problem. Well, so maybe this is a question for Ben, but will Taproot enable kind of more smart contracty based, I dare I say it, more like Ethereum, where it's locked and without third-party risk of managing a multi-sig? Will Taproot help enable kind of smart contracts at that level, where that only if the code goes wrong that the funds can be removed? You don't have the reliance of a third-party person saying, "I swear I won't move the Bitcoin."
Yeah, 100%, and that's why it's important that these companies, hopefully, that they invest in some R&D and then they actually use these tools properly to mitigate the risk stuff, because the technology is being built out for exactly to serve those purposes.
Nice. All right.
I definitely think that the companies are going to rehypothecate the Bitcoin, especially if you give it to them in a normal way, like you send them Bitcoin to some address, they're going to rehypothecate. The Goldman thing, it sounds like he might have been giving them a Trezor or a physical item, treating it more like a diamond or a bar of gold. It's interesting to note Bitcoins aren't really serialized. If you say I'm giving you 0.1 Bitcoin, you don't get the same 0.1 Bitcoin back in a year from now. You're going to get some other random Bitcoin. If you had a CryptoPunk or something, you would expect CryptoPunk number 188 back. So it might be harder for them to loan out against it. But even then, I can see these guys, clever as they are, thinking already, we just run up a bunch of ICO tokens or whatever you want to call them and say those represent CryptoPunk number 188, which we're holding, and you can hold a piece of it, and then they rehypothecate it that way. I think generally they're going to try to like loan out whatever you give them out the back door. So if it's like Marilyn Monroe's dress or JFK's convertible or something, I mean, I guess it stays in one piece technically, but once you leave it out of your hands, you have no idea what's happening to that dress, who is putting on, who's wearing it. And that's the same for your Bitcoin. Obviously with Goldman, they're going to pay you back. You'll get your money back. But like we said, it's not going to be the same Bitcoin. It won't have that history. It won't be your Bitcoin. It'll be someone's Bitcoin. But that's all for the people that have to decide to loan out their Bitcoin. So it goes for them. Check out WCN Clips. We've got 101 subscribers now, thanks to our new subscriber. We're also going to work hopefully on less hashtags and more words in the titles. You can share clips about this show. It's really neat, so that there'll be the show and there'll be clips, and you can send these to people that don't want to watch the whole show. WCN Clips. Google it on Google or anywhere else that you Google things, if you DuckDuckGo things or what have you. Issue 3, Central African Republic becomes the second company to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. Yes, we all knew they would start coming one after the other, just the huge names, really packing them in there. We also have a second report here that Panama is poised to approve the use of Bitcoin and 8 other cryptos without limitation. Yes, we're big time. We grows up and we grows up. Bitcoin has grows up. Dan, Eve, we've got El Salvador, a brand new one, Central African Republic. I don't know very much about them. And Panama coming in. Are these the new Bitcoin countries? Will there be more? Are these the only countries interested in Bitcoin?
No, this is the snowball, right? So if you think in 2021, wasn't it? So 2021 was when El Salvador made it legal, and that's one country. Now in 2022, it's April, May tomorrow or something like that. It's a few days, and then there's already 2 countries, right? So even if it's only Panama and Central African Republic, it's a 100% increase on last year's number of countries that have accepted Bitcoin as legal tender. So statistics. So I think it's going to be a snowball effect, and I think you're going to see all the countries that have maybe not as strong currencies as others, or with Panama's case, they rely on the dollar, right? So Panama, their situation is the US is printing for thee but not for me. The dollar, they're not getting any benefit from the dollar being printed because it's not going into their infrastructure, whereas the US who owns the dollar is printing it and sort of is helping to that ecosystem. They're just getting the raw side of the inflation, which is the worst part of money printing. It's all good. Printing money is fine if you get given some money, right? But if you're not being given any money, then it makes the situation even worse for you. So maybe we'll see that's an actual pattern. So another thing, two of 3 of the countries that have accepted Bitcoin as legal tender relied on the dollar and didn't have their own currency. So maybe that's going to be a theme, is that we'll see those countries slide first, the ones that rely on the dollar. Ultimately, again, every new country that comes on board, it again lends more credence to the idea of it being used as a currency. These are kind of smaller experiments in smaller economies, and Panama's an interesting one because obviously it's very much a tax haven as well, more so than say El Salvador and Central African Republic are, obviously. So there's probably going to be quite a huge amount of money swathing into Panama based on the traditional connections with the traditional finance world. So ultimately, I think it's a good thing. It's another notch on the Bitcoin bedpost. Ooh.
Well, Dan, as Mark Twain said, the only thing better than printing your own money is having another country print your money. So yes, they were in a tight situation there in Panama. Martine, we've got El Salvador, a Central African Republic, and Panama, some really hot countries. Anywhere that you'd want to live yet?
Yeah, I already started looking at Panama beachfront real estate, but pretty pricey, really. Dan said it's all offshore countries, tax haven. I wouldn't want to call it that way because it has this negative sound to it. It's more like international business friendly. That sounds just better. And
Haven is a
yeah,
good word. Haven's a positive word. It's like an oasis of tax freedom.
Of course, this is fantastic. And as Dan stated, like any country that uses a foreign currency, like most likely the US dollar, as their national currency, they will seriously consider Bitcoin at this point, because Bitcoin is 21 million. It's fixed. It's a better solution in the long run than adopting a currency that has been inflating. Well, the currency itself has been like expanding with 80% over the past few years. So I think this is a really positive development. We'll see this more of this. I believe Najib Bukele, the great big leader from El Salvador, predicted 4 countries or in total, or 2 countries. I don't know how many countries he predicted would adopt Bitcoin in the next year. And we're still in the next year. So we're only halfway, and there's already like the Central African country. There will be more there that will adopt Bitcoin. And Panama excites me. I know if you run a business in Panama, you can select any currency you want to keep your books in. So if you're like a European-based company, but you open a branch in Panama, you can opt to say, well, we do our books in euros, or you can say we do our books in dollars. But it was already possible to do your books for your Panama-based company in Bitcoin. So if you are purely a Bitcoin company that doesn't use any bank accounts and is purely focused on Bitcoin, then it's already possible. It was already possible to say, we will do our books in Bitcoin. You just have to find accounting software that allows you to calculate all those sats. But once you have that, this is ideal, because a Panama company makes it harder to confiscate your assets, and at the same time, if you don't require any international bank for your Panamanian company, and you can do everything in Bitcoin, it also makes it harder to confiscate your assets, the assets from the company. So I think fantastic. Yes, I'm so excited about this. After the show, I will continue to look at beachfront real estate in Panama, because if Portugal ever changes their mind, I'm off to Panama.
A man, a plan, a canal. Panama. Ben Ark, India and China famously skipped landlines going straight to cell phones. Are these countries skipping over all kinds of things going straight to Bitcoin? Or is this a huge education problem, as they barely have the infrastructure for normal computing, let alone Bitcoin computing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting point, and it has been a pain point in El Salvador is access to high-speed internet, and then some of the electronics and things which you need to, which people we use for running things like Bitcoin nodes. But I mean, all these poor countries, they can plug themselves into the most evolved digitally native currency on the planet, while all these big countries with their own central banks are building out very slowly these CBDCs. Like, you have Bitcoin and it works, and if you're a country which has experienced a volatile currency, then actually Bitcoin's volatility isn't that bad, and you can live with it. I think it's as long as there's a couple of options. They have like a stable medium of account, and then they have Bitcoin there as a sort of savings technology, which anyone can just onboard into if they want to, and they can squirrel away some funds into there and then watch them grow over time, because obviously it takes a while for it to grow. Then that's great. I'm seeing more and more exploration. I mean, obviously, when anyone who went to El Salvador, they're like, okay, it's all great, but it needs to be stable. We need something which is more stable. And there's been some great work which is being done by people like Alex Gladstein's kind of got an idea on using contracting to have some sort of stable medium exchange, which could be on Bitcoin. And then with Lightning Labs, they've had the Taru release, which will allow that kind of things on Lightning and stable coins. And so I'm noticing that the more of the players within Bitcoin are seeing that as a pain point for these countries which want to adopt it, and they do need it would be great if they had like a stable medium exchange, which wasn't a fiat currency like the USD. So that's something which I really hope to see kind of evolve and be worked on. But yeah, it's banking the unbanked. I mean, that's why we're in Bitcoin, isn't it? And there was a period for a while where the banking unbanked ideology kind of fell to the wayside, and it was all about just, you know, making fat stacks. But now we seem to be going back full circle, and it's like, yeah, actually, this tool is super useful for poor countries which don't have central banks, don't have infrastructure, and they can just leapfrog forward and adopt the most advanced digitally native currency on the planet. And attract all this investment. So I was speaking to my friend Jay Deluxe, who's out there on the ground in El Salvador, as I was speaking to earlier before the show. And he was saying it's amazing how many VCs and how much investment is happening in El Salvador at the moment. Actually, on the ground, there's lots of VCs just knocking around, trying to invest in stuff, trying to build up the experiment and make it work. And that's very reassuring that these people have realized there's an opportunity there, and it's attracting investment, because that's ultimately what's great about these first movers who are starting to explore Bitcoin in their countries, is they're just gonna attract all these investors. And you know, most of us couldn't even point to where El Salvador was on a map before last year, and now we all know where it is, and we know quite a lot about that country. And similarly, with the Central Republic of Africa, like it's the same. Like most people don't really know where that is. It's like, well, it's one of those random African countries you've never heard of before, and now suddenly we're all Googling it. People are going to go out there and they're going to invest in the country. Their tourism sector is going to go up because of it, maybe just a few percent, but it will go up. So yeah, it's a very smart move if you've got a country which isn't that wealthy, which is reliant upon another country's sovereign currency to use this free and open source money, and then hopefully people will build some recipes so these countries can build their own sovereign stable coins on top of Bitcoin. So you can have an El Salvador dollar, you can have a Panama dollar, which is stable, and they don't have to use other fiat currencies for that functionality. Hopefully that'll be built on top of it as well. I was going to ask you actually, Martin, because obviously you said that, you know, about Portugal there. What did you think about the Madeira news? Is that exciting?
Yeah, nice. But for me, you know, I don't want to live on an island. You know, Madeira is nice, but you know, I've lived in Cyprus for a while, and it just made me claustrophobic. It's like, let me out. And you know, I'd rather be able to drive for days.
But what do you think about the Bitcoin stuff we started doing? Because I got a couple of Portuguese friends.
I think it's actually very good. But if you look at the rest of Portugal, Madeira is an autonomous region, so they can decide for themselves. But the rest of Portugal is pretty cool too. They don't consider, there's no capital gains tax on Bitcoin. The tax man doesn't want to know about your Bitcoin. If you cash out a large amount all of a sudden to your bank account, they will ask you, hey, where's this million coming from? You know, they will ask you, and then you just have to, you know, show them that you didn't like magically pour it out of your black hat, which you found or you know miss. You have to explain where it's from, and if that's enough, and I think it should be like that. They state that Bitcoin is like a foreign currency. You don't get any interest on it, or you know, they assume you don't get any interest on it, and therefore you shouldn't have to pay any capital gains on it. It's like, you know, if you keep dollars under your mattress, that's your dollars, you know. So I think, yes, I like this approach. It helped get a lot of Bitcoiners into the country. There's lots of people migrating to Portugal. And so there's not that much of a crypto Bitcoin community, but they're definitely here, and they're just low profile and enjoying life. And Madeira, I think, can use the extra investment. I looked there for real estate too, because at first I thought, oh, I'm in the wrong place, I should move to Madeira, but no. But it's nice, it's good. I think over time, more and more countries will realize that it's okay to be positive about Bitcoin. You know, and there's no need to try and kill it, because that won't work anyway. And money flows where it's well treated. So
that's a very good point as well. Like, actually, a lot of countries were scared, weren't they, to be a first mover in the basket of first movers in case they suddenly get economic pressures from countries which don't want Bitcoin to succeed. But by that not happening to the countries in which they have started to accept it more, then more countries will be like, oh, okay, cool, well, might as well accept it as well.
And, and the smaller they are, the better, because it slowly builds up until it's too big to do anything about. And no one would want to be the big country that kills the economies of loads of small countries who accepted Bitcoin, because then they'd be assholes, right? Which is good.
I don't know who wrote the report. Was it the World Economic Forum that said something, or was it the Bank of International Settlements? They had a report where this yes, you're an affiliate, but they had a report that said this Bitcoin, it's not accepted and not legal tender in any country. But now it needs a little asterisk that says, and a footnote that says, well, it is legal tender in El Salvador, Panama, Central African Republic. So there will be more and more. So yes, it's definitely not. We've outgrown the dark market, the geek money phase, the dark market phase, risky investment phase, and now I remember when we were in Miami a few weeks ago for Bitcoin 2022, and Thomas pointed at the Fillmore Theater, which is next to the massive Miami Convention Center, and he says, a few years ago, this is where the conference was, and we were talking about the liquor store at the corner accepting Bitcoin, which was a big deal. But now it's 30,000 people, and we're talking about countries adopting Bitcoin. And this is in a matter of years. This is just amazing how far we've come. So yeah, I'm like, I get like goosebumps talking about it. Good thing you can't see that on the camera.
Reference the stables on Lightning though. Isn't that like putting a steam train on maglev rails? Like, or is it because they'd still be creating their own currency that could be manipulated, right? Or are you referring to like a Libra sort of solution, which is a bucket of
me?
Yes. Oh, sorry, Ben. Yeah.
Oh,
I was
looking
at you. Couldn't you tell?
I mean, this is out for question, isn't it? I just think there needs to be recipes, because if these big countries have central banks, then they can build their own digitally native currencies, and some of them will work quite well, and people will adopt them and use them. And then countries which don't have central banks, then it makes sense to use all this free and open source technology which exists. And then if we can probably do it better than the countries who are doing a centralized way, then maybe some of those bigger countries will just end up using that currency anyway. I think there's a whole bunch of ways you can do it. My personal favorite way is a federated model, kind of like Liquid. And then you have like different regions of a country. They sign the transactions, and they have lots of fast block times, and then you have Lightning on top of it. So everyone's still using Lightning, and you can do swapping in and out of Bitcoin Lightning to whatever currency you're Lightning. And you have so if you want to go full rant, but I want a MakerDAO type vault, which you put Bitcoin in, it spits out El Salvador dollars. So I put 100 quid of Bitcoin, I get El Salvador dollars out, and then the peg is kept via arbitrage. It's pegged to like a whole bunch of different fiat currencies. You'll have to use oracles, but it's enough oracles that it's pretty stable. And then you're locking up Bitcoin. The vault is then controlled by the federation, and then it's kind of corruption resistant in that the whole geographical country would have to collude together in order to be able to like manipulate and take advantage of that vault or something. That's my personal. Like I'm looking at Wales as an example. Like if we rolled this out in Wales, and it could be a tool of liberation for Wales, because then we suddenly have the Welsh pound, and we're like, when it comes to independence, then we'll be like, well, we've got our own currency and we can use our own currency. Why do we want the British pound? It might be a tool of liberation. But in other countries, maybe in somewhere like El Salvador, I don't know, maybe it's some sort of more a financial mechanism using markets and stuff. I know IBEX, the bank, they've been exploring that kind of concept, and I think that Alex Gladstein concept is a bit like that as well. It's kind of using financial tools to try and make some stable medium of exchange, which you can also have then Lightning Network on top of. So
then a while back I read about the federated eCash. Basically they used David Shawn's DigiCash eCash project, but then they bolted it on top of Bitcoin. So what you would get is a central bank, a sort of digital central bank, which would create the e-coins or e-cash tokens or coins, like digital cash that can be like anonymously spent and used, just like e-cash was at the time. But it's backed by Bitcoin, so you don't have to trust that central bank. But it was like it was basically a very old system from the 90s, but then on steroids because backed by Bitcoin. And it was, I looked at it, but it was still very, very command line stuff and no GUI.
Our good friend Obi, he's been kind of pushing the idea of using Chomini Cash on Bitcoin more and more for currencies in these local communities as a stable medium of exchange, and that's very exciting and interesting as well. So I'll have to try and dig out. I think he did a talk in. Did he do a talk in Miami? He's done a talk. There's a YouTube video of him doing a talk on it, and it's quite fascinating, but also very confusing. I don't know enough about the Chomini Cash stuff. But it's great that, I just know there's a lot of people who I respect, and they say that, that is a very good solution and it would work if done properly.
It sounds like Ben might hurt the feelings of Bitcoiners, but a stable coin might be better for governments and people, less stress. But there's that possible third-party counter risk of what stable coin, what do you peg it at, what market do you use, what system do you use, what if that coin goes to zero? Also, as Ben had mentioned, there were many VCs in El Salvador, everywhere perhaps, which reminded me of the ancient Chinese proverb, "It is a great time to go swimming. There are many sharks in the water." So should be fine there. And now back to the exit question. Let's go to Dan first. Dan, name a country, big or small. What country or style of country will be next to accept Bitcoin? And this is no longer just like a goofy question we ask where it's like, I wonder if a country will accept Bitcoin. Multiple countries now accept Bitcoin. So this is more and more real the more times that we ask it. Go ahead.
I'm still hoping for Malta, because they were meant to be the blockchain country and blah blah blah, and I've got Maltese roots. So it'd be good. I think Malta would be a good country because it's not one that's like, it's tiny, but it's not tiny. So I think that would kind of be a good candidate. It's also in the EU, so it infiltrates Europe, and it's probably one of the smallest, if not the smallest, certainly by physical size. So I think Malta would be a great country, a candidate for adopting Bitcoin.
I'd like to see Malta in there somehow. By random chance, I've been there twice, but it does sound very obscure. It's much smaller than Sicily. However, it's in the EU, which is going to be difficult to get that Bitcoin through. Maybe they could do a stable coin. Martine Wishmayer or Ben Ark, do you want to go next? What country will accept Bitcoin?
What?
Sorry.
Dan, what's OB? OB, the British guy?
Yeah. I've just messaged it in the chat. It's literally twitter.com/OBI. OBI.
Oh.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, massive flex.
Yeah, 3 letters. That's hardcore.
Yeah,
I want to coin for.
I want to try and find his talk because it's great. And
all right, well, Obi's not a country, and I'm not sure that Bitcoin 2022 live streamed their talks. I'm hearing that they didn't. Martine Wishmayer.
Next country. I think it might be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a country that currently has hyperinflation, something like Lebanon. I wouldn't be surprised because people already are Turkey. I'm not sure. There are so many countries, and the chances of winning this one are slim. Because if you would have asked me last week, I would have never guessed that it was the Central African Republic, because I did have to Google it. Where's that? And where's the beach? But there's no beach.
CAR. Everyone's heard of CAR. We all call it CAR. Central African Republic. All right. We've got Libya, Malta, Turkey. What do we got, Ben?
I think I messed up anyway. I think OB's doing federated custodian stuff.
All right.
With
what
using
country
eCash.
will accept Bitcoin next?
Wales, of course, obviously.
Wales is not a country. Sorry to disappoint.
Yes, it is. It is a country. Thank you very much.
Ooh,
Wales is most definitely a country.
savage.
We've got the Welsh Assembly.
They got their own language.
We've got our own language.
Can you say, Ben? Can you say the longest word in the?
No, I can't speak. I mean, it's very embarrassing. I can't speak. All my kids can speak Welsh.
I know that it ends in goch, goch, goch.
It's that huge. When you go on the train as well, like the train pulls up alongside it, and you just see the name going.
Yeah,
a long crazy name. It just keeps going and going.
Amazing.
The train station. Yeah.
Well, we've been looking for countries and towns with very long names and hoping that they would join Bitcoin. I'm sticking with Japan. I think a technological society, a place where we don't have to explain to them what a QR code is and how it works. I think that the kids in Japan are ready for Bitcoin. They like technology. They like video games. They like staying inside. It sounds like they're Bitcoiners already. We're moving on to issue 4. This is going to be a hot issue. Issue 4. Crypto is winning and Bitcoin diehards are furious about it. Yes, we've gotten to that point where the Bitcoiners are the settlers and everyone else is the Native Americans, and it's time to eat the settlers and to destroy everything they believed in. All of the Bitcoin philosophy ideas have been wiped free from the Miami conference, replaced by finance guys and gals, and they're all here for the money. As this journalist said, who went to the Miami 2022 conference, they went to a panel called The War on Bitcoin. They hoped that it would be about using Bitcoin in Ukraine and Russia and the larger context of war. Instead, it was about the war against Bitcoin. As the journalist said, the enemies of Bitcoin are journalists, not counting Bitcoin Magazine, governments, not counting El Salvador, traditional finance, environmental, social, and governance investing generally, and environmentalists specifically, popularity, which causes Bitcoin to get a bunch of losers, and fun. Fun is one of the enemies of Bitcoin. As the author says, Bitcoin is truly mainstream. But if Bitcoin isn't about revolution, what is it actually about anymore? Dan, Eve, what about Bitcoin and Bitcoiners? Is the revolution over? Did crypto win?
Well, Bitcoin, I think the crypto hasn't. I don't think you can say won, right? Because Bitcoin is winning massively. There's no one's adopting Ethereum as a national currency and ever likely to. No one's likely to for Doge, for example. Although that would be really, really quite cool, and even better if someone adopts Doge for their currency over Ethereum. That would really wind a lot of people up. But Bitcoin is winning, right? I think what's not winning is maximalism, and that's because a lot of maximalists, for example, will say that Ethereum is a failed project. This is probably quite controversial, but it's not really a failed project. It's got many users. The users are growing a lot, and there's lots of services and things that can be done using, like we talked about earlier, about smart contracts that don't require a trusted third party like Nexo and other services to look after your Bitcoin and swear they won't rehypothecate, because it's in a smart contract which is verifiable on a blockchain which isn't as secure as Bitcoin, blah blah blah, but it's still got utility. And the fact is that if people are using something, it gives the network value. And I never could, although I know that Bitcoin is king or queen or both. It's 2022. All the other currency, other tokens and whatever, they may have some usage to some people, and whilst they do, they'll have value. So to me, it's never been a battle between, I don't think, is Dogecoin better than, obviously not Dogecoin, it's a bad example, like Ripple, XRP, or any one of those. The fact is that Bitcoin is the hard money. All these other things, they're kind of sideshows, and they still have their use cases. But yeah, I don't know. I just never believe the argument that there should be Bitcoin and only Bitcoin. It kind of is, especially when people moan about it, like, giving Ethereum airtime or whatever. It's kind of, to me, it's the same. It's literally completely analogous to traditional finance going, oh, Bitcoin, this silly technology, no one's got a use for it, no one, blah, blah, blah. It's the same argument, but just passed on. It's like censorship for thee, but not for me. Right? It's people are happy with the censorship and about saying, right, this we need to ignore this completely because I have a solution that's best, and don't don't consider these things as useful. Only Bitcoin is useful. Only my thing is useful. And I think that as long as something's got merit and people use it, then it's got an underlying value because people value it. Like you can't turn around and say, even now people doing it now, they're just tulip crazy people. They're like the people that say that Ethereum's a failed experiment are the same crazy people that say Bitcoin's a failed experiment. They're the same people that say Bitcoin's a tulip experiment or it's a Ponzi scheme. It's obviously not. And I think actually it's a discredit to their intelligence when they do, say Ethereum's a failed. I'm not picking Ethereum because it's it's quite a lot of infrastructure spun off of it, right? And quite a lot of people use it for DeFi and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's all a bit silly when the main goal is fiat and central banks. That those are the things that are stupid. Those are the things that should be redundant. Those are the things that Bitcoin is fighting against. And by saying that everything else is a failed experiment, I think, it just makes you look a bit silly.
And it definitely makes it hard for Bitcoiners to make friends. I want to take a moment. I want to stand up for NFTs. Bitcoiners and everyone are always down on NFTs, or as we called them in 2017, blockchain collectibles. But NFTs are a great way for people to learn about Bitcoin before they get into Bitcoin. They think that they're sending around or collecting JPEGs, but really we all know that they're actually collecting tokens or strings of numbers and letters in an encrypted system similar to Bitcoin. And they're going to learn this too. They're going to learn how to use wallets. They're going to learn how to send around tokens. They're going to get ripped off a couple of times when someone doesn't send them the NFT, or if the NFT is less valuable and all those things. They're going to even learn about rug pulls and scams. And eventually, once they lose perhaps all of their money on the collectibles or make a lot of money, collectibles are worth what you buy them for and what you sell them for. It's always, up to the timing of the thing. I think that they're going to come to Bitcoin and they're going to come back and they're going to take that knowledge that they've learned in NFTs and they're going to become Bitcoiners or cryptocurrency people, as it'll be by then. But I think a lot of people are negative about it and they're not seeing the positives where people are getting wallets. They are sending them around. They are understanding digital scarcity through blockchain collectibles as an example, as a level to enter. And yes, right now they're all like, I only do NFTs. I never touch Ethereum. I never touch Bitcoin or Polygon or any of the things that actually hold my NFTs. But they actually do, right? They all end up learning about Bitcoin. They all learn about Ethereum. They all learn a little bit more, which is what it's really about. So maybe we shouldn't be so mad at these kids and their JPEGs and their tokens. Maybe we should see that as another entry level, a little, what do they call that thing? A gateway drug. Maybe NFTs are a gateway drug to Bitcoin. Maybe we don't have to shit on them all the time. Martine Wishmayer, what about these crazy Bitcoiners? Are they being replaced by crypto? Did Bitcoin lose?
I don't consider myself a Bitcoin maximalist, but I do consider myself a shitcoin minimalist. So what you see is that all those different blockchain and crypto tokens are being presented to unsuspecting investors as being the next Bitcoin. And that I don't like, because Bitcoin has found its use case. It's digital gold or payment system if you use Lightning, and it's working, and it has proven itself. Many of the other blockchains, for example, let's name something crazy, helium. It is the Internet of Things combined with blockchain technology, and it basically just adds a payment layer to this long range protocol, which is like Wi-Fi, but then long range, very low bandwidth. And that has been free for years now. So there's no reason to bolt a helium blockchain onto it. Yet they are selling hotspots, basically LoRa gateways that have Internet of Things, blockchain stuff on it. So it's bordering the scammy, and they're luring unsuspecting investors in and trying to sell it that is their use case. No, that's not the use case. They want that to be the use case, but it will never materialize. It will never work, and all those people will be throwing away their money. And therefore, I think many of the Bitcoin maximalists, as we call them, they respond in a very often unpleasant way. It's a scam. You're wasting your money. They're scamming you. But it's not just a scam. We've got pyramid schemes, old-fashioned Ponzi's. We've got rug pulls. There's like all these different ways to lose your money. It's not necessarily a scam. So it could also be just a bad idea. But that's why I always say, just especially for beginners, if you like an NFT, just go and buy it. But if you want something like, to invest in, then buy some Bitcoin. And then often they say, oh no, yeah, I listened to your story, but I bought XRP or whatever, because Bitcoin doesn't go up fast enough. This is quite often people tell me that. I heard it today at the bagel store when I got my lunch. It's like, oh, I invested in, I forgot the name. It was something I never heard of. I said, why did you purchase that? Just because Bitcoin doesn't go up fast enough. I said, well, then if you wanted to go up fast, then go to a casino and put everything on red, because you'll probably have more chance than your shitcoin, upping in value. So, okay, to long story short, I can be pretty harsh to people investing in any cryptocurrency because they think it will go up just like Bitcoin and it will never do. And then it's just that I lost patience with all these hundred thousands of Bitcoin clones that will probably never see any profits. And they're just there to enrich the founders. And in that case, if people don't understand the technology, just stick with Bitcoin. If you like your Bored Ape or you like your Curio card, definitely buy one, if you got the money to burn. But don't buy them because you think you'll be able to sell them for more. That's not, if you buy them because you like them, and then you can put them on a digital photo frame, you can use them on your TV, so you have a nice digital artwork in your living room instead of a big black square. But if you want to have some digital gold, then just go for Bitcoin, Sorry, this is my 2 cents. I'm as a shitcoin minimalist.
Man, Ark, it's almost like the world's a casino, but the Bitcoiners are like, only play this slot machine, not that slot machine. And then they get really upset if you play the roulette wheel. What are we going to do?
I thought the article was more about, obviously there was this controversy over this comedian or whatever mentioning the word crypto too much. And then a few other mentions from Peter Thiel of Ethereum and how that was for payments and Bitcoin is gold. And you're like, yeah, Peter Thiel, you don't know what you're talking about. That was such an awful presentation, by the way. It was as if they stood on the stage and they said, right, you've got 30 minutes to do a presentation, just a random person from the audience, go. It was just such a poor presentation. Anyway, I don't like the guy anyway, he's a knob, but this presentation just, at least for the people in that room, hopefully, concluded the same thing as I did. A large part of the article was this, and Bitcoin Magazine are like, oh yeah, we're not bad reporters, but actually they're perpetuating this myth of this ideal Bitcoiner, which existed, who only eats meat and has these certain political affiliations. And it's a myth. That's never existed. It's something which was created online in Twitter through these weird bubbles of influence which popped up out, filled voids when other influencers moved out or whatever else. And it's something which is incredibly frustrating for me when I was trying to explain Bitcoin to people, and they would look at the Bitcoin overt community, and then they would assume it's just a bunch of like far right people who are generally knobs, and it's all based on this no true Scotsman of I'm the truest Bitcoin in the room because I only eat meat and I fucking I do this and I do that, and it's complete and utter nonsense, and thank God now the world's moving on from it, and there's plenty of environmentalists in Bitcoin. Look at Bitcoin Core, look at the diverse political ideologies of the people who are actually working in Bitcoin Core. There's lefties, there's righties, there's people who are environmentalists, there's people who are vegans. Like and they're the people working on Bitcoin. It's very most fundamental level who we're all entrusting to help build out the software on the very base layer. And there's no true Scotsman Bitcoiner there. So I'm glad that we're getting away from this concept of this Bitcoin supremacist. There's plenty of examples now in history. We had it with the general shitcoinery, and then we had it with the ICOs, and we had it with that. Yes, most of these things don't do very well, and a lot of them are just full of hot air. A lot of these projects, and then the ones which aren't full of hot air, the technology in which they're built on isn't that trustworthy. I'm always quite amazed actually when you have people who have like a wide knowledge of all these shitcoins and what they do. And I struggle just to keep up on Bitcoin and Lightning. And I think, how can they possibly? So I'm like, okay, there may be value in some of these other projects and Ethereum. Yeah, I mean, it's still not broken. It's still kind of working. So they keep having to like add all these band-aids on it to keep the thing moving. And it didn't live up to its original promise. They have to have like these like extra blockchains which are on top of it. And then they do these state chain things where they have to like take a shot of the blockchain and then hash it into Ethereum, and oh, don't worry because we could roll back that blockchain, and it all just looks a bit hacky to me. So whatever, if people want to build things on top of that because it's easy, that's fine. What I'm very excited about is I've met a lot of developers who are coming back to Bitcoin because of Lightning. So they had a project they wanted to do, and originally they were going to build it on Bitcoin because they thought they could do zero conf stuff and they would have like immediate settlement, and then they couldn't have that. So then they moved on to this shitcoinery thing and different blockchains which are faster or whatever else, so they could have these fast transactions. And I'm seeing a lot of projects coming back into Bitcoin now, a lot of developers coming back into Bitcoin because there's all this functionality within the Lightning Network. And if you're going to build on something, say if you've got an actual decent project which is going to use digitally native currency for transactions, then it just makes perfect sense. Just build on Bitcoin because it's all there. The infrastructure's there. I do think that a lot of the NFTs and other stuff, that's going to start pouring onto Bitcoin as well as time wears on, and that's very reassuring. That there's a bunch of I was just talking to someone before, but there was a project called Scare City, and they were proper shitcoinery, and they did their own ICO and all this other nonsense, and but now they're back on Bitcoin and they're building some pretty cool things on Lightning Network, and props to them. I'm looking forward to some of the stuff they make. So it's a good thing. It's all a good thing. And Bitcoin Magazine are also evil for perpetuating this utter myth of this Bitcoin supremacist, no true Scotsman. Gone.
Well, and I tried to read the hard copy version of Bitcoin Magazine, and it's very much still there. It's interesting how writing a Bitcoin book with a powerful yet generic title like the all-important Bitcoin or the Bitcoin Standard, suddenly your politics are Bitcoin's politics. And they had not only a large interview with Safedine where he fought against the vaccine and he fought in favor of the virus, but they also had like a 4-page photo spread of Safedine standing in front of things so that you knew that he's a cool guy. It was like Tiger Beat for Bitcoin. I was like,
and again, look at the lack of support from nobody within the core team, nobody working within Bitcoin. The fundamental level has shown any support for that book. Why? Because it's completely and utterly fundamentally wrong. Because Bitcoin says, because Safedine says, this is Bitcoin. This is what Bitcoin does. It's perfect. It works perfectly well now. And it's like all the people actually working on Bitcoin are like, no, it needs to be improved. There's things that need to be improved. It doesn't work perfectly well now. Things will change. There's no dogma in Bitcoin. Anything can change in Bitcoin as long as if there's enough consensus for something to change. So the ideology it's not supported by the people actually working on Bitcoin. It's supported by this mob of angry young men or whatever who just want to eat meat and fucking hate women. I don't know, whatever else.
I prefer. Sorry,
Sorry, Dan.
So I was just going to say I preferred the first edition of the Bitcoin Standard, which was actually called "The Future of Money" by Dominic Frisby.
Yeah, everyone go read that. It's actually if you read the future Bitcoin, the Future of Money by Dominic Frisby, there's an excellent audio book He's got a wonderful voice. Go listen to it.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. All the good bits of the Bitcoin Standard are that book, and then all the bad bits are Saifedean's Shrivel.
I also think there's something where Bitcoiners want one book or one video that you could just send to people that would instantly, to use the modern phrase, to orange pill them. And I think a lot of people thought that this Bitcoin Standard is the book. And I found it hard to read. I found it hard to listen to. The pages are Bible thin. It reads like an economics textbook, way too much detail. And again, even the religious people, the Christians, have this problem. A guy handed me a Bible recently, a little word book, and it was like, this isn't really what you want to say. Like, the first thing you want to say to me is not Genesis and who begot who. You really want to say what the religion's about. You want to say what the currency's about. You want a short book. You want something that's direct, like Bitcoin for Dummies. Instead, we get this Bitcoin Standard, and I hear people, they just buy it and they buy 10 copies of it and they give it to their friends and all this. I'm not sure it's the solution to all our problems, but it is easy to write about. They all eat steak. They all don't believe in vaccines or viruses or anything. There's all kind of right-wing politics in it. And I guess that's what Bitcoin is now.
I tell you what I did like.
You got to define your politics, or someone else.
I was watching because I go to the conference. I do my open source stuff. I do my workshops, and in the evening, then I was sitting back with the Germans I was staying with, drinking a few beers, and we'd watched some of the talks. And then I thought, oh, Peter Jordan, get Peter Jordan on now. I'm going to hate on this guy. And then I put the Peter Jordan talk on, and I was like, or the fireside chat.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. Sorry, Jordan Peterson. The Jordan Peterson talk on, and I was like, yeah, this guy's good. Like, because he said, we don't know, like, he was basically like, he wasn't playing to the crowd. He was just saying maybe moving off the gold standard was a good thing. There was a lot of economic, positive things which happened after moving off the gold standard, and that maybe we're moving to a Bitcoin standard could be a bad. And it's just good for us to think about those things and not to just assume that there's this crazy panacea which is going to cure all the world's ills. Like, there may be some negative side effects to it. And I just thought it was cool that he stood on stage in front of all these Bitcoiners, all these, like, Saifedean worshipping Bitcoiners, and then just put out there this, just to be a little bit more skeptical, a little bit more subjective over your own ideology. I suddenly found myself a Jordan Peterson fan.
I wish he was playing devil's advocate there. I wish he was exploring the other side just to explore it, but he likely actually believes that, because I know for him, this communism thing, this anti-communism, he's 100% on that. He won't explore for the second the other side of that issue. So it's interesting to hear him take a different side on the gold standard. And I do agree, Ben, I don't think we're going to see Art Deco buildings under the Bitcoin standard. I don't think we're going to see little art.
Unless you have, like, bring back continents full of wealth, which we can go rape and pillage, and then pull all that wealth into Europe, which is basically the backbone of that period in time where we had, like, all that economic growth.
We need that continent to rape and pillage. So we can get all that money, so we can have the art buildings.
In the Netherlands, we call it trade, international trade.
Sorry, international trade.
It lifts all boats, a rising tide that lifts all boats. But yes, it's interesting to see this Bitcoin. Also, the girl had incredibly good access to the parties. She was describing party after party that I hadn't even heard of, let alone been invited to. It's great to see that the rich and the financial guys are having their own fancy parties. Martine, I guess we missed out on these parties. They said one of them, it had sushi, free drinks, Serena Williams.
A lavish pool with half-naked girls in there.
I went to the whale party on the first night. It was the only fancy party I went to, and it was they were just all eating. There's just different. They had all these hors d'oeuvres, but they were all octopus based. They had, like, octopus, and then they had, like, liquidized octopus, and I felt like I was with the lizard people, and we only eat octopus.
But they are, Ben. They are.
They are the lizard people, aren't they?
They are.
And we didn't.
Spoiler alert.
And then what did I do the whole time? I sat and I spoke to Margot Pays, who's the one who's doing all that great work on renewables and Bitcoin mining, actual academic, doing a PhD in that field. Did some great panels at the Bitcoin conference. And then this is the thing which this Bitcoin magazine reporter is trying to sort of rally people against. I don't know, like, that's great that there's people actually doing work in that field, because it's very interesting, very inspiring, and she's a great person as well. And I got to chat to her, and we chatted like way away from all the music and all the noise and all the people I've never seen in my whole life, all these rich people, all the socialites of Miami who have absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin.
Well, there's a positive story for the whale pass. You found the other math person at the party. Otherwise, they did a great job with the whale passes. They gave them to kind of the top open source people like Ben and the artists and some other people, so that the rich people would have a chance to mingle with these, elite crypto people, just like Satoshi wanted it to be. He's like, we'll build a new society with a new level of elites, and that's going to solve all our problems.
I didn't actually see any party according to my Chinese Fitbit, I walk 25 kilometers at least every day. And just on the expo, I didn't see any of the talks. I just visited other stands and networked. And at the end of the day, I was tired, man. I was really tired for somebody that doesn't like walk all day during the day. This was a large expo, and the expo alone, I don't regret it. Next year probably goes on to maybe some parties, but I wanted to be fresh the next day. Be able to network, talk to people, find out about their products, see how we can integrate with our company, and for me that was the most valuable bit. I totally missed out on the octopuses. No liquefied octopus. I don't eat octopus. I think they're like very intelligent beings.
Exactly. I'm with the vegan like renewable mining girl who's working on the renewable mining academic stuff, and then I'm with Rutzel as well, and he also thinks that an octopus is a sentient being. So we were like the only ones who didn't want to eat the octopus, but the rest of them were like slurping it down, like, oh yeah. They're brilliant, these sentient, intelligent beings.
Lizard people.
Sounds like a metaphor for all of Bitcoin. They're slurping down the intelligent beings, eating them up. Yeah, I didn't go to any parties, and I don't know how I agree with Martin. I don't know how they can fit them in their schedule. I was tired after each day of the expo. I do wonder, though, about some of these Bitcoin parties. I guess it's harder now than it used to be in the old days. If you had a company like BitPay or whatever, you just want Bitcoin people to come to your Bitcoin party. You wouldn't be all like elite. We only want the financial best of the best at our party. You'd be like, maybe we could learn something. Maybe we could recruit a new programmer. We can meet the new guys, from this party. So there'd be more of an open atmosphere where, like, I remember getting invited to lots of crypto parties, but at this one, I guess that the caviar was, pretty expensive. They want to keep it up tight and hoard that stuff, even though, as Ben shows, the nerds aren't going to eat your caviar, except maybe by mistake. But yeah, they didn't invite the nerds to any of the parties.
Well, I was like, when I went with Fidelity, because that's the only party I went to. I didn't get invited to any other parties, and I heard about all these great parties which are happening around me, and I was like, I've got the speaker thing, I've got the whale thing. I feel like I should be invited to this cabal party, but I think we're kind of downers. Like, they don't want us there, And I kept bumping into like random, insanely, cool Bitcoiners. Like I bumped into like Jonas Nick and a couple of other core devs, and ended up just having dinner with them, just in some restaurant. And I'm like, why aren't you being invited to some crazy, party? Because that's not what they whatever. It's the socialite thing, isn't it? It's kind of, like you say, it's a different scene.
Even if you were a core developer and you actually helped build Bitcoin from the ground up, we still don't want you at this party.
No,
I think that was very clear. and I know why. It's like Ben says, because we are downers. And look at this downers again with our exit question. Is the Bitcoin revolution over, or are there still some Bitcoiners hiding out inside the Trojan horse, which is being slowly moved into the financial system? Martin Wishmayer, is your revolution over? Did the bums lose?
No, Thomas. I'm not that negative about it. We improve on Bitcoin one line of code at a time, and it doesn't really matter what we're building, or or whether we're spreading the word via social media. It's just that many others are attracted to the scene, and they don't want to know how Bitcoin works. They don't care about Lightning. They don't care about transaction fees, because they'll just pay it, or their bank will pay it. They're just there for the money, and that's This is a group of Bitcoiners that has always been there, but it's just a little bit more visible nowadays. And I don't really care about it too much. For me, I still focus on building things. I think this is what makes Bitcoin exciting. I would never ever have considered becoming an accountant or doing some financial job and just juggling numbers all day. It just sounds utterly boring. It's not my thing. So no, next year we'll have our own party with blackjack and hookers.
Well, accountancy can do that to you. Ben Ark, the 300, they fought at the hot gates of Thermopylae. They defeated the Persians, but later on the Persians killed every single one of the 300 Spartans. Is that similar to the Bitcoiners?
No, I kept bumping into people, and you bump into someone who's building great stuff, free and open source, Bitcoin. Everyone's using it. Everyone in Bitcoin knows what it is, and they'd look a little bit sad and downtrodden. And then they'd come into our free and open source area, and suddenly people start to perk up, and we were talking about, then we're doing workshops and stuff. And for me personally, as part of the first day and a half after the conference, I was like, man, I'm going to get a different hobby, because I was like, this is what I didn't think I was working on, this thing, making all these people rich, and I thought I was working on something cooler than that. And then I actually sat down and started doing some workshops, and then and then we had all these cool people coming in and wanting to engage in the workshops, and then actually participating as tutors and actually teaching other people how to make points of sale and whatever else. And that was incredibly inspiring. And it's all there. It's just, there's just this thick layer of shit and people and sycophants and people who want to sort of associate to Bitcoin and make money off it. That's fine, they exist, but there's still a great huge section of revolutionary dissidents who want to make Bitcoin this new free and open source money which anyone can have access to. And the revolution is just beginning, baby.
The snow at Lake Tahoe was as high as 12 feet. The Donner Party had to eat the other members of the party to survive. Dan Eve, is this the Bitcoiners resorting to cannibalism? Nothing else left to survive?
No, it's just the general array that you'll get within a group, right? That like with football, you've got the diehard football fans, you've got the people that I'm picking football. I don't really like football, but you've got the people that know it inside out, the people that watch a game or two and they're interested in, they even support multiple teams. There's the people who don't support any team and they just go for a fight. There's you just have a difference of people, and when I was growing up, it was all about skaters, right? So it was the skaters was the big thing, and you had the hardcore skaters that were like, I'm so unique because I'm the most skater looking person. You're like, yeah, but then you look like all the other skaters. You've got the people in the group that want to be the biggest of the group, the most skater of the skaters, the most Bitcoiny of the Bitcoiners. And so, yeah, I just think this is more it maybe is the end of the beginning, but it's definitely not the end. This is the party just getting started. We've only got 3 countries on board yet. So I think it's going to be years, if at all, before any country adopts another currency, because largely they're not considered currencies. Bitcoin is the currency. A lot of people that I think that I know that like Ethereum more than Bitcoin, for example, they still don't view Ethereum as a currency. They view it as like a tool for doing stuff. So Bitcoin is the currency. It's the replacement of money. The other stuff is just fluff. And so you're going to have the hard defenders of anyone that, I don't want people buying into so-and-so because it's taking money out of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Whereas I don't really care about that. I'm like, some people find value. One man's trash, one person's trash is another person's treasure. So, as long as people find value in it, I'm not going to laugh at have a go at stamp collectors for collecting stamps when I collect something else. You collect stamps, I collect so-and-so. Let's all just be happy and live together.
All right, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but all the Bitcoiners are dead. All the Bitcoiners are dead. but the thought virus is still out there. And Michael Saylor and all these other finance guys have come in and they pick up the Bitcoin flag and they're like, I'm going to make a lot of money with this. And then secretly, really quietly, Jiminy Cricket's on their shoulder and he's like, you could bank the unbanked. You could, anyone could send money anywhere they want. And all these little ideas are still out there. And they're like, don't talk about that. Talk about how I'm going to make lots of money. You could donate money anywhere in the world for almost nothing. And, they don't want that. But what's so great about Bitcoin and about these ideas is that they're embedded in their code. They're embedded in the way that Bitcoin works and runs, and the ideas will always be there. So even as there may not be any Bitcoiners on the stage anymore, and you just have to wait, this is our big quiet time where everyone's like, just be quiet. Let the finance guys carry it around. And the finance guys are carrying around. They're like, this is a great Ark of the Covenant. We're going to go really far with this arc. And one day as the finance guys open it all up and they're like, oh, it's full of cypherpunk libertarian ideas, and their faces all melt off. So we have that to look forward to, which is nice. And in finally, our last story today, this one's a humdinger. Issue 5, Roger Ver is back. Yes, we always said we'd welcome Roger back with open arms after he left Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash. But unfortunately, Roger Ver is back and he's promoting Dogecoin. I'm not sure if it's a joke. I'm not sure if he's being held hostage or it's some kind of kidnapping situation. But here's Roger Ver saying Dogecoin is cheaper and more reliable than Bitcoin, which is just hilarious. It's almost like he knows nothing or knew nothing. Martine, you always said you'd welcome Roger back. What about now? He's back with Dogecoin.
Yeah, well, we need a clown, but it looks like the clown went to Dogecoin. But no, Roger, I think he was a very vocal promoter for Bitcoin at the time. Never mind that he sold fireworks off eBay or try to hijack the Bitcoin logo for his own fork, or have underage girls hand out Bitcoin Cash stickers to others. I don't know. It's like I'm like, I don't judge on any of that, but I think he's secretly wearing a clown's nose when he's at home and nobody's watching. So no, Roger, we said we'd welcome you back, but first, come to your senses, then we welcome you back. So,
not just the logo, they tried to steal the whole name. Remember, they were the real Bitcoin, and the other one was Bitcoin Core or whatever it was, and they were going to get it relisted on all the exchanges, cause all this confusion of people trying to buy Bitcoin, getting Bitcoin Core, sending it to their Bitcoin Cash account, losing all their money, vice versa, so on and so forth. It is interesting to think about, as Martine saying, either Roger never knew anything about Bitcoin and just kind of supported it randomly and never read about it, never had any of the details, especially the technical details that would help one understand the difference between a popular destination like Bitcoin and something that no one uses like Dogecoin, where there isn't a scaling problem, where there isn't a scaling solution. Whereas Bitcoin's so popular, they had to build a scaling solution, too complicated for Roger to understand. Or maybe he's just faking and laughing the whole time. Ben Ark, is Roger serious? Does he like Dogecoin? Remember, we could say, Roger's a rich guy. Elon Musk's a rich guy. Elon Musk's a technical guy. Roger, early Bitcoiner. Does he know anything? Is he joking? Making with the funny stuff?
Well, I mean, Elon buys Twitter. Roger Ver comes back. I was like, well, when are they going to announce Bcash on Twitter? And then suddenly he's supporting Dogecoin, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe he got contact with Elon, and he's like, when Elon got all upset about the mining stuff, which was amazing that, this supposedly hyper-intelligent guy accepts Bitcoin for Tesla, and then is suddenly shocked that it's got a heavy carbon footprint, and then has to stop accepting. So it just shows that he actually doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. It's all mirage. But yeah, maybe Roger got in contact with him and was like, Elon, like, what about Bcash? And then Elon was like, and then Roger's like, okay, anything. What about Doge? And now he's pushing Doge. to try and take on Bitcoin. I don't know. Hopefully Roger will just come back to Bitcoin. Maybe he never left. Maybe LM Big on Lightning, that big fat node. Maybe that's Roger Ver. Could be. I always, I don't like hold anything against Roger Ver. Like he thought that Bitcoin cared about him and his rich mates, and it clearly didn't. And the network showed that it didn't, and it just cares actually about the people who are using Bitcoin as a whole. And hopefully he will come back to Bitcoin. And I see that sentiment more and more in Bitcoin, that people would be happy to have him back. But yeah, it does kind of scare me a little bit that like Elon buys Twitter and then suddenly Roger Ver turns up again, and it's a bit.
Well, we didn't mention that, but Ben just mentioned this Elon buying Twitter. Last week we were talking about this, but I think this Elon buying Twitter with money that he didn't have, but he just got it from the bank, is exactly my point against proof of stake. You know, you do a flash loan with money you don't have, get this whole bunch of cash, then buy something, then change the rules, and then you either don't have to pay it back, or you can pay it back because you changed the rules. This is like, it felt like a proof of stake type of takeover, you know? So this is why proof of stake, bad. Proof of work, good. Totally unrelated, but you mentioned Elon, so I thought I just had to mention it.
Well, as Ben was saying with Elon, in the PayPal book, they talked about how Elon was not the technical person at PayPal. They had this guy, Max Levchin, something like that. I probably said his name wrong, but he did all the technical problems, all the complexity of PayPal. Additionally, he tried to fight the spam and the scams and so forth, built out the whole PayPal system. Peter Thiel was more of the political or the idea guy at PayPal. And remember, Elon Musk didn't originally start with PayPal. He had his own company called X.com that offered a pretty pedestrian banking services for the online. He then merged into PayPal. So it's a pretty curious to see him at the top of PayPal, SpaceX, Tesla, now Twitter, all the time. Maybe
he's a state stooge, man. He's a state stooge.
But a bit of the imposter syndrome, right? Like we don't really know. Like there's this. It's been built up that he's the one, but maybe it's like Vitalik and Ethereum.
It's
one of the guys.
He's our like he's our most favored private sector free market entrepreneur. He's a state stooge. Like he's building fucking quote unquote space rockets. So you can't use those for bombing other countries, can you? Like they're space rockets. Like PayPal, the only reason PayPal was allowed to exist when projects like eCash.
He was famously against government sanctions now, but he loved government handouts and government money when he was building Tesla.
It's all nonsense. Like so like with PayPal, like they were able to survive because eCash did and DigiCash. They didn't bow to government regulation, whereas PayPal did, and they just bend the whole business model so they would do whatever the government wanted. The government liked that, recruited them, probably Peter Thiel as well, because then he went off and made this horrible, like, invasive software which invades privacy. Like they're both state stooges, and why any Bitcoin would give them the time of day, I don't know.
But remember that PayPal had the big idea. They had the big idea when they were designing the internet currency idea. They're like, well, if we allowed PayPal to like exist off of PayPal servers and you could send from one PayPal wallet to the other PayPal wallet, you could buy all kinds of crazy stuff and we could never stop you. And they saw that and they didn't get all libertarian cypherpunk excited about that. They got commercially afraid and said, this could ruin our startup. We need to design our startup in a centralized fashion so that we can always control what you buy. And that's PayPal. So again, that's
what if Elon Musk is a state stooge? What if the US government can't buy Twitter, can they? But then if they have the guy who's in their pocket, what if he buys Twitter? Then great. I know. Anyway.
At the same time, though, like what you're saying about PayPal bowing down to regulators. In order for exchanges to survive, they have to, like Bitcoin, even Bitcoin only exchanges, they've got to bow down to the regulators. It's just kind of the thing you do if you have a business model that's using a technology that the government doesn't favor. You kind of have to go that way, otherwise you're not gonna survive. But they did have a chance to build something more like Bitcoin, and yeah, they did go very much down their kind of the government route. But
I'm
whether
going full conspiratorial now, because Elon Musk is like he's trying to show that Bitcoin was bad and it didn't work. And he's like, yeah, I'll accept Bitcoin, and then he's like, oh no, I can't because it's horrible mining problem. And then he's trying to push that out into the public realm, and that was like an attack on Bitcoin. It's like a call from the attack on Bitcoin from the CIA or something through Elon Musk. I've got now Elon Musk.
We can also add Elon's support of Dogecoin, which makes no sense if you have any technical background, as well as we're talking about here, Roger's support of Dogecoin. It's almost as if the first attack where you're just like, use Ethereum, which has a founder, can be rolled back, is a little centralized and maybe getting more centralized. Now they're like, use Dogecoin. It's a big joke. We think it's funny. Technically, it's a little soft, especially if everyone starts using Dogecoin, which is the same scaling problem we went through before.
Isn't Bitcoin Cash mined still, right? So we said about Roger Ver maybe attacking Bitcoin from the mining perspective, but isn't Bitcoin Cash is still mined, right? It's not proof of stake.
So no, it's still mined.
It's still got the same energy issue.
And
if you start using it, you got to mine it more.
There's a fork of Bitcoin Cash, which was like, what was it? This Craig Wright's fork, BSV, and they are down to 8 nodes right now. So there are eight nodes left. So it's decentralized because there are 8 nodes, and all of them run different versions. It's sometimes when I'm bored, instead of watching soap series on TV, I just go look at those shitcoins because it's like all entertainment, a currency with 8 nodes, all of them running different versions. Bitcoin Cash, compare the hash rates, both Bcash and BSV, the hash rates never really went anywhere. And all the hash rate power is in Bitcoin, and they're still using the same the hashing algorithm like as Bitcoin. So it's easy to attack, and this is why you need a billion gazillion confirmations if you ever want to sell any of that stuff. So I'm really happy. I dumped it the moment I could split it out of my wallet. It felt like the free cash department just called. It was the best rate I got for Bcash ever. And it uncluttered my portfolio. And I think back then I got like something like 20% extra in extra expensive Bitcoins, because this other coin, it was a gamble at the time, but it just made no sense. And I do think it was good for a reason, because all the big egos in Bitcoin, they all went to Bcash. And then they started their infighting, and then they split up again. And, it's good. It helped Bitcoin be stronger. It rid a lot of like the negative elements out of Bitcoin. Sorry, Roger, I didn't specifically mean you, but we still welcome you back. Just stop talking about Dogecoin.
I still like the TX highway.cash, which has got like it's like the 2 lanes. There's one which is like Bitcoin. It's got Bitcoin. It's got Lightning as well on there, and there's tracks continuously, and there's the Lightning Express, and then there's like the Bitcoin Cash like road, and it's got like loads of bumpy like what they call potholes and forks ahead signs, and the cars are going really slow. It's
practically no cars.
Practically no cars. Yeah, it's like it's unused.
All right, going back to the topic so we can do the exit question. Do we really believe that Roger supports Dogecoin, or is he still mad at Bitcoin and trying to take it out on everyone, controlled by a government agency, been kidnapped, perhaps by aliens, something like that? Or is it just for the lulz? Why is Roger supporting Dogecoin? Read his mind, Dan Eve.
He wants to see the world burn, because he really made a big mistake with Bitcoin Cash and Bcash, and you know how upset he got with people saying Bcash instead of Bitcoin Cash and whatever. Unfortunately, it seems like he probably went too heavy into that idea, And so all he's got left is to try, and he's like, well, Bcash, no one's going to take Bcash seriously against Bitcoin, but they might take Dogecoin seriously against Bitcoin. So that's his last resort, is to pretend that that Dogecoin is better than Bitcoin, because he knows that Bcash has just got no chance, not a snowball's chance in hell of usurping Bitcoin. And Dogecoin doesn't, but in his unfortunate, missed the boat mind, where he sold off all his Bitcoin for Bcash. Unfortunately, that's he's picked the wrong horse or the wrong dog.
Martine, do you agree? Is Roger still fighting the fight, still angry about his losses?
I don't think he ever sold his Bitcoin, because he was saying that he sold all his Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash, but from my understanding, he didn't sell. But he's definitely probably angry. And but back then he thought Lightning wouldn't work, and this is something, maybe he realized that Lightning does work, and actually it's working pretty well. And now you can even deposit via Lightning to exchanges or withdraw without fees from, say, an exchange like Kraken. So I think we're the whole Lightning network was basically a rug pull under many of the altcoins that claimed better, faster, more scalable is doubtful, but they claim to be better than Bitcoin. But that's like just the layer one Bitcoin, on-chain Bitcoin. If you look at Lightning, many of those altcoins have no reason to exist. And I think if he is not completely dumb, which I don't think he is, he's he will know his stuff, I hope, for him at least, but he will come to realize that Bitcoin isn't that bad. And maybe he's just angry with the world, and he thinks, if I can't have it, it must die. I'll start promoting the Dogecoin. I don't know. Actually, if he would be at the Bitcoin conference, nobody would be talking to him. He would be all alone in a corner. I'd still buy him a beer and say, "Hey, Roger, no hard feelings, bro. Paid with Lightning. Cheers."
No hard feelings, bro.
Martine's just giving him ideas. It's only a matter of time before Roger comes out with Dogecoin Lightning Labs, and then developing the Dogecoin Lightning Network. They might call it Blitzkrieg. Ben, Ark, what about Roger? Does he really believe all this stuff about Dogecoin?
He did actually say early on that he loved Lightning, and then he retracted when he realized that it would damage his argument against Bitcoin, and then moved to saying that he didn't like Lightning. I know it sounds paranoid, and I know it sounds conspiratorial, but the cypherpunks, when they were fighting so regular normal people could have just cryptography in their lives, in their communications, they were infiltrated by alphabet agencies. Bitcoin, as this distant technology, which can have quite a dramatic impact on the way the future world will be, has been to interest of some agencies, and there have been people who tried to infiltrate the ecosystem and the industry. And there's probably people we know, and there's probably people we're friends with who do have some relationships with some of these agencies. I think it's fine. I think just carry on building and then hope for the best. That's my personal policy. But it appeals like Roger Ver. He carries himself like he's some sort of secret agent. He's into his kung fu, and he's like a cool guy, and he's in a suit and things, and he thinks he's in some sort of film. So it would appeal to see his ego. And if I were something like the CIA or whatever, I would get someone like Roger Ver, pull him to one side and say, "Oh yeah, you're so cool, Roger Ver, with your kung fu and whatnot. Can you work for us as a spy and try and infiltrate the Bitcoin ecosystem?" And then you've got Elon Musk as well. And it sounds crazy and it sounds paranoid, and I'm not usually someone to go into these conspiracy theories. But there are attacks on Bitcoin from some of these agencies, and he is like someone who, if I was in one of these agencies, just because of his ego and the way he works, who I would try and approach. So there could be some greater thing at play here. And it is worth reading between the lines and not just thinking that the dude's a goofball, because he's not a goofball. That there may be some greater motive to all of this. So yeah, he's a spy.
A lot of the organizations of the 1960s were infiltrated. There were a lot of double agents, and Roger is quite a character when you
and
meet
now
him.
we've got countries accepting Bitcoin, man. Like it's seriously, and it's attacking US economy and all these countries using their currency and international power relations. Like, of course, like this industry is going to be rife with spies and people trying to, you know, assert control for different countries. So yeah.
The one time I did get to meet Roger in person, he had a strange metal briefcase handcuffed to his hand, which I thought was the most obvious rob me signal I'd ever seen. I couldn't believe
Did he actually?
He didn't have I mean, obviously the natural thing, if you have something like that, you should have either military guys or like huge dudes with you. And he didn't have any huge dudes or any military dudes. He was a thin little dude. Like you say, he's going to kick your ass for the Kung Fu thing, Ben. I'm sure he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm sure it's very different. But I guess that's why he could probably carry the metal thing, because he's a karate master. I'd forgotten. But yeah, much like Steven Seagal, he's ready to go.
He just had a packed lunch in his karate suit in there, ready to do his thing. You know, they
you know, you walk down the way, you bust it open, and it's a peanut butter jelly sandwich, like a book about karate.
His packed lunch his mum made him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Lunchables.
Despite making fun of him and Ben thinking that he's a spy, we'll welcome you back to Bitcoin.
I welcome you back. Bring all the spies into Bitcoin.
No. I'll buy him a beer.
More attractive.
Nothing they can do, so bring him in.
I'm sure they're working on the better spies. They're going to get us some better spies. But it's nearly the end of the show. It's time for prediction. I don't know where the magic 8 ball is. I have to find it. But it's up to you, Dan, to lead us forward with a prediction. Predict something that will happen in the future.
I predict that there will be. I'm going to go pretty hardcore. I'm going to go for 4 countries in total by the end of the year that accept Bitcoin. So there's another 2 I think we get to see.
2 more countries. Martin Wishmayer, a prediction.
Yes, well, I looked at the prices over the week, and I think we'll be seeing a bit of a dip. So I noticed the Bitcoin interest accounts, you know, the several various exchanges are really dropping their interest rates. There's no money to be made there. So I think we'll be seeing a bit of a dip, and then we'll see a huge bull run. But I don't know whether this will be now or within a few months. I think it will take a few months at least, but it wouldn't surprise me if we are going to see this like, elusive 100K Bitcoin before the end of the year. And I think somewhere in after the summer. So it's weird. I don't know. I can't explain why, but it's something we will definitely see this year.
Even though the price of Bitcoin's going down, the price of Bitcoin will go up.
The price of Bitcoin will go down at first, and then will shoot up because there will be short squeezes and everything, and price will just go up very fast.
I hate it when it does that. It's so confusing. You never know the right thing to do. It makes it so difficult.
Oh, just hodl. It's very easy, really. You know, when the price dips, buy a bit extra, but just hodl. Don't try to time the market.
Ben Ark, a prediction. Can you tell us about the future?
On what? On the price? Yeah, it's good.
Anything in the world.
I'll be doing a prediction. There's the Human Rights Foundation in Oslo. They're doing the Freedom Forum, which is a conference for freedom-loving people and freedom fighters. And this year, because as Alex Gladstein, I mentioned it before, he's quite heavily involved with the Human Rights Foundation. So there's a big Bitcoin part of the conference. So if you're in Oslo, in Norway, this is on the 23rd of May. So it's not in the immediate future, but if you need to prepare travel or whatever else, then and I think there's still some tickets available. That should be really exciting and fun. And we're going to be doing some workshops. There's some great talks. The BTC Pay server guys are going to be there. They're going to be doing a talk, and more generally and widely in the Oslo Freedom Forum, they have I think there's like a talk by like an ex-slave, and there's some really interesting people there, and they're not, you know, probably your usual, you know, a lot like the sort of Bitcoin Miami, or the overt Bitcoin and Miami crowd. So if anyone is in that neck of the woods, then Google it, come along, build some cool things, do some workshops, and yeah, should be good. Looking forward to that. That's my prediction for not the immediate future, but the nearish future.
A calendar-based prediction. Very cowardly. Dan, Eve, do you have a story of the week? What's going on?
No story here. No.
Martine, certainly you have a story of the week. Looks like you're there.
Absolutely.
General Byte ATM. Wow.
Yeah, that's like, it's like 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, when we started in a garage. Well, I didn't start, Karel founded it. And then now, you know, it's we've never thought we'd be like, you know, we'd have a picture like this, but we had a new model just before we brought it to the Bitcoin 2022. And it was in the garage, so we took a picture. We didn't want to publishing it first because people might think we are like a garage company, but, you know, embrace it. We started in the garage 10 years ago, and we're still there. So my story of the week is a bit different. Last week, we were at LibertyCon, the Liberty conference in Prague, and what a nice podcast, Bitcoiners there. There was like Stefan Lefiera was there, and several others. And this week, General Bytes, or not General Bytes, but more the Every Trade, the accounting package is at Crypto Bytes 2022 in the Czech Republic as well. So it's a bit busy. I'm not sure if we'll be in Oslo, but that'd be cool, definitely for next year. So yeah, I won't be there. I'm like here on the podcast, but if you're at Crypto Bytes 2022, say hi to the guys at Every Trade, and just, you know, you can have a look at the ATM, our new model, the BATM2 Ultra is there, and it's the best one we made so far. So this was my shameless pump for the week. Thank you, Thomas, for this 30 seconds advertising space. But yeah, returning the mic to you.
Well, happy anniversary to General Bytes, 10 years, and also celebrate an anniversary today. It's the 9th anniversary of the Mad Bitcoins Twitter account, which must mean it's about the 9th anniversary of Mad Bitcoins. So that's very cool. Ben Ark, we still have a chance. Do you have a story of the week, maybe similar to your prediction?
Not really. It's been pretty, I mean, it's warm at the moment, and been going down the beach a lot, not doing much work. And congrats, Martin. Amazing. And 10 years is such a long time. And Thomas, well, 9 years. It's incredible, isn't it? Other years fly by. No, nothing really.
Well, there was then on the network, on the Twitter, I saw the guy that made the Bitcoin point of sale systems, you know, with the red PCBs that work on LM Bits, right?
Oh no, they don't. I mean, that crypto POS thing, was it?
Yes, wasn't it built on LM Bits? Because
no, I think he's integrating with LM Bits, but he's basically got an ESP32 and a screen and put them together, and then put a Bitcoin logo on them. And he's cool. I hope he sells them because they're nice little units. But I think he's going to make a point of sale. They are touchscreen, and I was going to buy a touchscreen, one of those little, because it would make a really nice unit to have an ESP32 and just the touchscreen, then not get rid of the keypad altogether.
Solar powered, maybe, that, you know, you can just leave it on the desk with a solar panel facing towards the light.
Yeah, the LMPOS people are pretty cool now. There's someone's made, like, plugged in a solar panel to it, and you can do that, like you say, just leave it on the desk and it just charges, and it uses so much little power, particularly if it's offline. It uses so little power anyway. It just charges. It's great. But no, actually, because I made a bunch of those point of sales in Miami at the conference, and I'm seeing more and more on Twitter, like these points of sales popping up in places. and then people just like tagging me in a photo or something, and then suddenly I just get this picture of this, put it on some random, and that's really cool to see.
Thomas, I see a lot of stories of the week coming regarding this subject in the near future.
I do think it's cool. Also, maybe Ben can work with David Bailey and the Bitcoin 2023 conference. Maybe they can fund those things, and instead of like, I don't know, 20 or 30 POS, you could build 100 or 1,000.
Well.
Lots of them.
I chatted to that guy on the last day. We bumped into each other, and he was like very candid and honest about the conference. Like he could see that it was quite corporate, and that for some of the people in the big, I mean, that's fine if you're running a company, whatever, you want that, but for some of the people working on the free and open source stuff, like they had the free and open source stage, which is amazing, and my dad did a good job there with the panels. But the workshop space wasn't as big as we'd want it to be, really. We thought it was going to kind of be bigger. So I asked him to get in contact with Jeff Fulmo, who organizes the Lightning Conference and Adopting Bitcoin and all the Lightning Hack Days. And these Germans are so good at this unconferencing thing, which is where you literally just get a big fat room, loads of desks, and then people like, because the amount of people who came up to me when I was doing my workshop and said, oh yeah, I do workshops back home and wherever, I'm going to use this for my workshop. And I was like, oh wow, like if you knew you could do a workshop here, would you bring materials and then build up a workshop space? And they're like, yeah. And I honestly met about a dozen people who said they would do that. So there'd be people who could do seed signer workshops, and people who do Raspberry Blitz workshops. There's people who could do the POS thing. There's people who do software stuff, so like mempool.space workshops or BTC Payserve workshops. So we're hoping that there will be a dedicated space to that in 2023. And I spoke to David, but it's quite funny because they're Americans, so everything's like money. So he's like, yeah, this conference costs 30 million. And we're going to put 10% towards this fucking workshop space. And I'm like, the point is, you don't need to put 10% of $3 million. So you just literally just give us a big fat conference hall, bunch of tables, and we'll bring the ruckus. So hopefully, and it works. Like, and they were complaining, they were complaining on Twitter about how their bottom line wasn't so great this year. And that's because they just threw so much money at the conference. Like if you go to like the Chaos Communication Congress or the Chaos Computer Club in Germany, or to EMF, the electromagnetic fields, which is happening in UK soon, it's these big hacker conferences. Like people build the space up, and it's actually very beautiful. Like what they build, there's all these crazy LEDs. It's very arty, and so I want to see more unconferencing in Bitcoin 2023, and I think it will happen. And I've been emailing the dude, and hopefully he'll take it on board. I think they're sending someone to CCC because I asked them to, sending someone to CCC to see it, so they can understand it. They understand where we're coming from. And as well, actually, there's Adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador, hopefully in November. Another Adopting Bitcoin conference. They can go to that too and see the unconferencing, because that was done very well in the last El Salvador conference. So yes, hopefully there will be more space for freaks and geeks who don't want to be out in those big crowds with all the cool kids. They want somewhere dark to sit and hack away on their computers and build some cool shit.
That would be great to see, and hopefully it works out. As you guys know, we're big fans of Bitcoin Magazine here. In the 9 years I've been doing Mad Bitcoins and the World Crypto Network, they've never written about us, not even once. So great stuff over there at
That's
Bitcoin
weird. Why is
Magazine.
that? That's so strange.
Oh, we're just not very corporate. We don't have a bottom line, and we don't make any money, so we're not that important. But maybe next time, I got that safety and photo spread. Got to save pages for that. Don't want to put another article in, but we're running out of time. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. Send us one of those comments. We got 2 comments last week. I read both of them. It took a lot of time, but still a chance. Get your comment in. There's Ben's slapping machine. Tell us if you would welcome back Roger. Tell us what country you think will be next for Bitcoin. Maybe it's your country. Maybe you own it like the CEO, Nayib Bukele. But anyway, we're running out of time. Until next time,